Okay, so it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the 2011 Arimaa World Championship Finals. We're in round 5 in the game that promises to be the final game between Greg Main as gold from Canada against Jean Dallegault of France playing silver, who is of course the reigning and defending champion. And I'm joined in the chat room by two commentators today. I've got Arimaa Buff, whose name is Patrick Dudek, and also Fritz Junke, Fritzlein, and who'll be joining me for the commentary. So welcome, Patrick. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good, and also welcome, Fritz.
Thank you.
So I'd like to get your impressions on the game, which has just started. So we're just going to be getting the first moves now. In fact, we've just as I speak, Gold has set up his pieces. So maybe Fritz, would you like to give your overall impressions of how you expect the game to go, how the players have been doing so far, and also what you make of this initial setup from Greg?
Well, the setups from the two players are quite traditional, with the elephant and camel in the center, horses guarding the corners, and rabbits forward only on the sides, otherwise 6 rabbits back. This is the 99 of 9 setup. Chessandgo played it exactly, and Adanac just switched a cat and a dog. Otherwise, very traditional, very standard openings.
Well, yes, and I think it's interesting to see how quickly the two players have played, taking maybe less than 10 seconds on some occasions. And I suppose it's interesting that from the beginning of the Arimaa age, as we could call it, there's been a lot of debate and perhaps people wondering whether or not that get down to standardized openings or not, because of course both players can set up their pieces however they please on their two home ranks. But we've watched especially how this 99 of 9 opening's been being played, and it's all very familiar to all of us. The strategies having, as you say, the two horses on the two wings, and advance with the elephants to try and generate some chances. So it seems that both Adanac and chessandgo are sticking with what they know. That it looks like they're maybe concentrating on home basics instead of going for anything more spectacular. What are your impressions of the two players' strategies so far, Patrick?
So far I see nothing adventurous. They both played almost symmetrical moves, and the idea is, will they be attacking the camels, or will they defend theirs from being attacked?
Well, yes. So it seems like a very classic kind of opening. Do you play this kind of game much in practice, Fritz?
In fact, this is, although the setup is classic, this is a very modern take on it. It's quite unusual for the players to both expose their camels like this. In the old days, by which I mean 2004, 2005, when we would play this setup, we would never leave our camel exposed on the third rank. The camel would always stay back on the second rank, afraid of the opposing elephant. Nobody wanted their camel to be pulled out, exposed to danger, taken hostage on the other side. So it's very dramatic. We would have thought they were crazy in 2005 to see, well, first of all, to see Gold put his camel up on the third rank, right where the silver elephant could get it, and then to see Silver, instead of immediately trying to take that camel hostage, putting his own camel on the third rank in response. This is a declaration by both players that they would rather be attacking than defending. Neither player wants to be the home player, to be the one who's on his own side, holding a hostage, trying to restrict the other player's elephant mobility. They both would prefer to be attacking on the other player's side, and so they're so eager to be the attacking player that they both expose their camel on the third rank right where the opposing elephant could pull it.
It's interesting that you see the mix both of perhaps nervousness in selecting a very traditional kind of opening, and at the same time that adventurous attacking nature, though I suppose might be perhaps down to more player style, and also, players who tend to play at home do tend to lose out in the end, I suppose. What if you had been playing silver? What would you have done, Fritz?
Well, as I'm not willing, as silver, to play exactly symmetrically, silver has had such good results recently by playing asymmetrical openings. If you play symmetrically, as chessandgo has done, where you exactly mimic gold in the opening, then you give gold the first move. Gold has the first chance to do something different, to break the symmetry, to take the initiative. And I am unwilling to concede that because silver has done so well recently by putting, say, both horses on one side and the camel on the other, or just doing something different in response to gold's setup in order to try to seize the initiative. But maybe Jean is just comfortable with his opening, or maybe he feels that Adanac doesn't know what to do either, saying, well, I'll give you the symmetrical position, but it's a fairly new position. It's not stereotyped opening, and you saw Adanac think for a long time before making his move 4G, that even though you would think, oh, this position must have occurred 1,000 times, it's quite new, and Adanac was really unsure what to do on 4G, how to use the fact that he had the first move in a symmetrical position.
Well, yes, and we've continued on that game since, and Gold did try to pull out the camel, and then the camel retreated. And also Gold has been pushing forward with his horse over on the A-file, perhaps trying to pull a rabbit. And Silver has also responded in kind, pushing his own horse down the H-file, possibly trying to do the same thing, and also moving it along to threaten the camel over on the B-file. So, yeah, it's interesting here that both players are still seem to be mimicking each other's moves, and I don't know if this is maybe almost a psychological warfare on the part of Jean, perhaps trying to wrong foot his opponent there, because as Fritz was just saying, we're not really used to seeing positions being played symmetrically. Patrick, whose position do you prefer?
Well, so far I'd say that it's pretty indecisive, but I think that Silver has better, for the moment, has a better advance of his pieces.
Yes, maybe so. We've just had 6G here, so Gold has used his elephant to get the dog down to E5 because it was hanging there. So he's actually threatening two things. He's threatened to drag the dog down to F3, of course, by more push more than pull. But of course, also the camel is protected only by that cat, on F7. So Silver has got two things to think of. He needs to at least use one step to make sure his camel isn't captured on the next move. At the same time, he needs to think about how to get his dog back to safety. And of course, for lesser mortals such as myself, this would be quite a quandary, but I'm quite sure that John has it under control. So, yes, Patrick, any more impressions on how the game is going so far?
Well, so far, as you said, it's quite a quandary because he has, at least he must use one step to protect his camel, and at maybe another step to protect his dog from being immediately captured. Because if the dog goes all the way down to D3, it will be very hard to save it there. And of course, he can also play an attacking move, which he did by indirectly menacing the golden horse, and also pulling the camel.
Yes, that's right. I was just going to say that Gold's position there does look a little bit dicey, because he's got two pieces all out there on their own on the A file. The horse is effectively trapped, because the minute he takes a step southwards, he'll be frozen by the elephant. And meanwhile, it will take any piece at least 2 steps to get to the camel to unfreeze it. So Gold also is now in a position where he has to think. Silver was able to save the camel from capture by, of course, making it a defender of the trap, so therefore 2 defenders. And he's also moved his horse down the H-file as well, likely hoping to pull a rabbit up the H-file there. So if I were in Greg's position right now, in Gold's position, I would be feeling a little bit worried that I've got 2 major pieces out there in the west, with seemingly very little in the way of support. I don't know, Gold could perhaps shift his focus onto C6 with the elephant, trying to make some sort of an attack or even a swarm around that trap. But of course, we've now had 7G, whereby he's pulling his dog down to the D4, down to D4, towards the C3 trap. But he's also keeping his eye on that C6 trap. So, of course, Silver, if he were to bring the camel over to C5, it's already unfrozen by the elephant, which is sitting there waiting to do his duty there for the camel on D5. So, yes, Fritz is back with us. What's your take on the last few moves?
Well, just looking at the position, still we have the symmetry with the horse attacking up the H file, down up the A file and down the H file, and the camels on the opposite corners. Then Silver is better positioned to swarm. The gold elephant can't afford it, and Silver has more pieces forward for the swarm, but Gold is then ahead in the hostage-taking race. So there's a trade-off. If you are better in the hostage-taking race, usually you're behind in the swarming race. So, but then there's a question: which do you want to be? What do you want to be doing here? Silver could change his mind now and say, I want to take that horse on A6 hostage with my elephant. If I take that horse hostage with my elephant, then I'm making a bigger threat than he's making. I'm making a threat to capture, a larger capture threat than he's making. Well, he's done that with the camel now on 7S. So now the camel is threatened with capture. That's a bigger threat than the dog. And now Gold would have to decide, do I want to continue attacking? And if he wants to continue attacking, he has to let go of that silver dog to use his elephant to defend the C6 trap. So then he has to give up his threat to capture a piece. Well, then Silver would have 3 attacking pieces, would have horse, dog, and camel all free to attack. If he does that, I think it's basically a concession here that Gold has lost the opening, that his attack will be less forceful than the Silver attack. So the other option here on 8G is to use the Gold horse to unfreeze the Gold camel and retreat both the Gold horse and camel a step, and then with 2 moves, and then consider playing a home game here, where Silver has quite a bit committed forward. It's not possible really for Silver to pull back at this point, and so if Gold retreated like that, Gold would be saying, okay, you win, you get to be the attacker. You wanted it so badly. You get to be the attacker. But